1979 was the introduction of a movie car chase franchise that would change cinema. Now entering its 45th year and 5th franchise installment, this Australian movie icon, first starring Mel Gibson, has given us the audience many unforgettable moments that have shown little signs of ever leaving our memories. MFP presents 10 Mad Max iconic moments. Reintroducing the Interceptor, Fury Road. Having been 30 years since the last installment, the audience is once more thrown into the world of Mad Max in this opening of its 4th installment, Fury Road. Now starring in place of Mel Gibson is Tom Hardy, as we see a bearded Max standing next to an Interceptor, not unlike the pursuit special of the second film, set with a makeshift fuel tank and rusted muddy look. With a brief moment of seeing Max eat some mutated wildlife, he is quickly seen gathering up his belongings and throwing them into the XB coupe. Having not seen Mad Max in his V8 on the screen in over 30 years, what follows is a moment, for this narrator at least, where the blood-pumping ignition of the once again 5.8 litre V8 is started up once more. With the roar of the engine and the shake of the blower, in an almost electric shock way, the screen lingers on the zoom-in close-up image of the Scott Hat injector, perhaps longer than was needed, but which was indeed satisfying to see once more as this new Falcon Interceptor takes flight. Unfortunately, the scene that follows does not end well, as we see that Max's new Interceptor is a shadow of the pursuit special of the original film, and is taken out rather quickly, and later rebuilt and replaced by a heavily modified version of itself. Short as it is on film in this Road Warrior mirrored look, the brief moment of it starting up and speeding off taps into the spirit of the original trilogy of films right off the bat, and the remainder of the film does not slow down from there on. Head-on collision, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Ending off the original trilogy, the way the Mad Max franchise has always been known for, is our third climactic head-on collision in the series. After a somewhat disappointing situation, where we did not get to see our protagonist take on more involvement in the driving in the film, we finally get to see Max behind the wheel of his makeshift vehicle he fought so hard to get back, as he leads the charge in this last-ditch effort to help with the escape of a group of young hopefuls looking to make it back to a city that once was. Being first seen towed by a group of camels, this supercharged new replacement to Max's lost prize of his original Ford coupe is now presented in the form of a heavily cobbled together with other parts 4-door ZG Ford Fairlane, stripped down to its frame with some hints of its former self, similar to that what Max had been originally seen driving in the first film. After making their escape from Bartertown with Master, Max and his crew are unable to take off in a Transavia PL-12 air truck known as the Flying Jalopy, with its pilot, returning Mad Max 2 actor Bruce Spence. With the last-minute entrance of the character of Screwloose, the switch is made for Max to drive in front of the air truck to slow down the approaching hunting party of Bartertown, led by the unkillable security head Ironbar, played by Aussie rock icon Angry Anderson. Jumping off to safety, Max gives up his freedom and vehicle and destroys the charge in a spectacular crash, leaving himself behind amongst the mayhem he has caused to an uncertain fate. The pursuit special is destroyed, Mad Max 2. An exciting moment for the franchise, but not a pleasant one for car fans. After Max is able to deliver the rig needed by the settlers looking to escape the wasteland, he has decided to take his fuel he has earned and his vehicle, and make his way back out onto the road. The setup is one where we see Max shows he has no interest in re-entering society when the option is given to him, as he decides he would rather continue on the path he has chosen on the road. We see Max start up the original pursuit special for the last time, as the sound of the blown V8 makes its way into the darkness and straight into the camp of the Lord Humongous. Losing points by having this scene sped up, due to the V8 in real life not having enough traction on the outback dirt, Max drives his black on black in an almost taunting manner, as he is soon given chase by Wes and his gang. Back now onto the asphalt, Max ignites his no longer fuel deprived supercharger, and seems almost sure of his escape. It is here we see that the stolen Humongous vehicle, a custom-built 5.8 litre V8 truck built on a Ford F-150 chassis, has a secret of its own, as the use of nitrous oxide is shown, perhaps for the first time in cinema history, to which it is able to propel those giving chase right up alongside Max, as Wes is able to attack Max with the use of an exhaust pipe, causing him and his car to crash onto the side of the road. Unlike the original film, a second pursuit special was brought in for the production, in the form of a yellow 1974 Ford XB GS, as the original was spared the ultimate destruction that was seen on screen, where moments after his crash, the explosive device is set off, and this is the last we see of the original pursuit special.
It's all over! Let's go!
Thunderdome Fight. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. With the third installment, director George Miller wanted to bring in a new element of danger and excitement to Mad Max. Enter the title arena of the 1985 film simply known as Thunderdome, a framed dome-like construction placed on location at Homebush, Sydney in the legendary Bricky's Pits, where many legal street racing took place. The set for Bartertown is created, where the concept of an arena where two men with dispute can settle their differences to the death in a one-on-one hand-to-hand combat. Created by the character of Auntie Entity, played by a chainmail wearing, white wig sprouting, rock legend Tina Turner, Thunderdome shows to be a form of ultimate entertainment for those wandering throughout the wasteland. Choreographed by returning stunt coordinator Grant Page, Thunderdome would consist of bungee cables attached to Max and the character of Blaster, a giant hulk of a man who is determined to kill our protagonist. With a wonderful display of acrobatics, the objective is shown by seeing the fighters jump to great heights to obtain any weapon they can to end the situation. Inspired by circus performances at the time, George Miller had enjoyed the idea of seeing a fight to the death in a way that broke the traditional single-level feel and would include a more three-dimensional aspect to it. Considered by many to be the highlight of the film, it would prove to be the scene that remains perhaps the most memorable of this third installment, which fell short of fans' expectations, yet was a favourite among critics such as Siskel and Ebert, who listed Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome above the excitement of the previous installment of Mad Max 2. Max decides on vengeance. Mad Max. With the loss of his wife and child and his best friend, Max is seen sitting alone by the beach near his house. His rage and eventual madness is seen swelling up inside of him as he is looking down at a Tor Johnson mask he had used earlier on to unsettle his wife. Having first contemplated leaving the MFP, Max is now shown to be a man with nothing to lose, as we the audience see him in a broken state in a tank top and pajama pants. What makes this moment more powerful is in its use of Australian film composer Brian May, as his music portrays the emotion we are seeing on screen, as it starts off in a low-key tone, only to swelter up and be totally blown out of symphonic proportions. Max has made his decision and runs back to his home and lifts up a storage trunk and pulls away a fabric sheet to reveal his MFP leather uniform waiting for him. It is this uniform that would forever remain the last outfit Max would ever wear, as we never see him again throughout the franchise in any form of civilian attire. The scene then cuts to Max with sawn-off shotgun in hand, now fully dressed, walking down towards the shadows of the Main Force Patrol garage, before he emerges in the Black Pursuit Special and out into the Melbourne streets. What follows next is a series of spectacular stunts, choreographed by the late Aussie stunt legend Grant Page, as we see Max go on a high-speed rampage, taking on the Toe Cutter gang, and taking them out one after the other, and with no mercy shown whatsoever. Polecat attack Fury Road. Having decided to make their way back to the Citadel in the War Rig, Furiosa, played by Charlize Theron, and Max, along with Nux and the Brides, are intercepted by Immortan Joe, played by returning Mad Max alum Hugh Keys-Byrne, as we come to the final chase of 2015's Fury Road. A one-of-a-kind element that could only have come to be seen on film thanks to the world of Mad Max was the inclusion of the Polecats, a situation where we see the hordes of Immortan Joe attempt to take back his prized wives, using a method of driving alongside the war rig and having men at the top end of a 6-meter pole as they are swayed side to side as they make their way down and pluck out anyone they can get their hands on. Inspired by street performers on poles director George Miller had seen years prior to the 2015 film, it was decided to include this stunt to be performed on actual moving vehicles, which initially was thought to be impossible to execute in camera and was thought would take place in post-production via compositing. After some failed green screen attempts, stunt coordinator Guy Norris brought in Stephen Bland, who was part of Cirque du Soleil, to see if it could be done for real on location. The end result is a scene that perfectly captured the insanity of Fury Road, and a situation that may never be repeated with such succession in cinema ever again. Mad Max 2 opening chase. After being reintroduced into this new post-apocalyptic world through the use of a moments in time style montage, recapping the events of the first film and establishing what happened since, we now see Max in an unkempt mess of a state, his face unshaven, his hair rough and uniform torn and modified, and his once pristine V8 in a total muddied up mess. Sparing no time, the audience is treated to a car chase where we see there is nothing left of the world we once knew in the first film, which is reflected in the vehicles and people we see Max is being chased after. Shown in an unemotional state, Max is seen to be perfectly made to be in this world along with his now new pet, Australian blue heeler cattle dog, as his would-be killers are struggling to keep up. That is until we are shown his black on black is running low on fuel and Max turns off its supercharger. In a wonderful display of vehicular skill, Max is able to take out almost all his pursuers and obtain from them the now precious gasoline they possess in a world where fuel is now worth more than any gold on Earth. Seen going up against the Ford Landau, the stunts in Mad Max 2 are shown off to great extent, and we are now fully immersed in this new world of the Road Warrior. Meeting the Pursuit Special. It was the meeting of one of the most iconic movie cars that takes this spot on our list, as we see Max early on into the first film be introduced to his ultimate weapon, 600 horses of brute Aussie strength, coated in a two-tone black paint scheme. Based on the 1973 Ford Falcon XB GT, the car would mostly come about at the insistence of producer Byron Kennedy, who after passing on the idea of obtaining an American-bred Mustang, went for the locally built Australian Ford Coupes, which had already made a name for themselves at Bathurst's Mount Panorama, especially after the iconic Alan Moffat and Colin Bond 1-2 victory. Designed to meet the needs of the film, we see Max first be shown the car that was custom made for his talents, as it was described as a piece from here and a piece from there. The package would include a new custom Arcade paint front end, roof and rear spoilers, zoomy side exhaust pipes, and a wine supercharger with a Scott Hat scoop. Created as an incentive by the Main Force Patrol in order to keep Max on the road, giving his hinting at wanting to quit, the last of the V8s is started up for him, and its sound is heard all throughout the University of Melbourne parking lot, doubling for the MFP garage, and the rest from there on is history.
He's in a coma there!
Big Rig Crash, Mad Max 2. Although the entire final chase could make the spot, the focus here is that of its climactic moment, as we see after a number of failed attempts to stop the fleeing Mack truck, driven by Max fail. A half-burnt Humongous makes one final attempt to stop the rig once and for all, by igniting his nitrous one last time and guns his vehicle down the road. Having issues of his own, Max is in the battle trying to save the feral kid from the clutches of Wes, who is placed at the nose of the big rig, trying to get his hands on Max's shotgun and the last remaining shell to end the chase. It is here we see the feral kid notice what is heading straight for them, as Wes soon turns around to catch a final glimpse himself. Driven by Dennis Williams, the scene is set up by having the stunt driver not eat for at least 12 hours before the final crash, in case of any surgery needed if the stunt was to go wrong. With reinforcements throughout to make sure the truck cab would sustain the impact, Williams can be seen as Max wearing a helmet as he plows the rig into a static Humongous vehicle. Originally failing to roll the truck on the first attempt, the crew returned the following day to complete the stunt and filmed the 1973-75 R600 Mack truck roll onto its side. The stunt proved so intense that while reviewing the dailies, director George Miller contacted Williams to see just how the stunt looked, as both were amazed no one was seriously hurt in the process, and the stunt to this day still remains to be one of the biggest highlights of the Mad Max franchise. Opening chase, Mad Max. The first chase of the entire franchise is arguably seen as perhaps the best one as well. Having decided to make his original idea of a news reporter becoming the victim of the crimes he is reporting in a world gone mad, George Miller was able to get the funding to make his feature film, which later would become about a police officer going on a revenge rampage in a dystopian near future. Having obtained several Australian-built vehicles and turned them into a stylized version of law enforcement, the opening to the original Mad Max shows us a police chase enforced by a law group known as the Main Force Patrol, an underfunded last line of defense in a world that is falling apart due to a global oil crisis, reflective of the actual one taking place at the time. We are shown the pursuit of a cop killer bikie known as the Knight Rider, played by Aussie actor Vince Gill, fleeing with a female passenger in a stolen pursuit special police vehicle. In chase we are shown several members of the MFP that have vehicle call signs March Hare, Big Bopper and Gosling 1. Watching the chase unfold on the streets of Melbourne, an unforgettable scene of carnage takes place with crash after crash as the MFP is shown to be struggling to catch the senior member of the toe cutter gang. Having obtained the vehicles used by the production at local auctions, we see the use of 3 Ford Falcon sedans, 2 XB-V8s and a straight 6 XA, along with a Kawasaki Z1000 and a 6-cylinder Holden HQ Monaro posing as a V8. It is in this chase we are introduced to our protagonist, first seen in glimpses, Mad Max Rockatansky, played by young Mel Gibson, where after several failed attempts to catch the Knight Rider by his fellow MFP, he is seen taking part in the chase and ending it soon after, where we see the HQ Monaro set up to crash in spectacular fashion thanks to the use of a government ordnance rocket given on loan to the production, And what follows is an amazing piece of Australian cinema history. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like, subscribe and bell icon in order to help this channel grow and to bring you more content such as this one, as your support is what keeps this channel going.